Hey, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Zee Garcia.
And we're going to be taking a look at Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail. I always want to call it Trailblazers. It's Trailblazer.
Yep.
You are a Trailblazer on the Arizona Trail. This is kind of a spiritual successor to the John Muir Trail. Same company, same designer. I'm super excited about it because I love hiking.
And you've reviewed that game.
And I've reviewed that game and really liked it, so I was excited to get this to the table. Let's check out how it plays, and then we'll give you our thoughts.
So here we're taking a look at a game already in progress for two players. One player has their board over here and their tokens. The other player is right here with their various bits. And then we've got the board set up. And like I said, we've already gone over a couple of rounds. The game takes place over 8 rounds. We've already done these 2, so we're now in the third one right here. The game is going to have a breakdown shown here on the player aid card that takes 3 phases. The planning phase, the journey phase, the meat of the game, and then recovery, which is basically some, updating the board. And then on the back, you've got some final scoring as well as a guide to the different symbols available on the board there. So let's go ahead and take it from the top, the planning phase. The very first thing we're going to be doing is beginning at the gateway, which is right here. All the players are going to collect whatever's listed right here. And so I am going to get over here 2 of these backpacks, 1 water. This player will do the same thing, 2 backpacks, 1 water. And then we will take this card, we'll put it at the bottom of this deck, and we will reveal the next one. To see what we're going to be getting next round. Plus, players could send a worker here and get this stuff during this round. This one shows a new symbol here, which is their life, tracked at the bottom of their board here. The next up is going to be a selecting the crossed arrows action. We're going to go to this section for that. And every player with their token is going to now select a little bonus they'd like to take. Starting from the start player, which in this case would be the purple player, this one over here, they're going to select something with their token. You can do one of 2 things. You can move to one of the 2 places adjacent to this place. So they could come up here, take some silver. They could come down here, take 3 turquoise. Or you could go to another space on one of the different crossed arrows that is in the same geographical position. So instead of this space, they could move to this one, or they could move to this one, okay? And so this player is going to stay where they are. They'll come down here, take 3 turquoise, track that at the top of their board. The other player then is going to move to this one over here, and I'm going to take 3 gold. 1, 2, 3 gold, like so. With that done, we go to the next step, in which someone will place the Gilla monster here. So this goes to whoever has the least gold, which is this player right now. They're going to be blocking something. You can block one of these tile places, or one of these tile places, or one of these card places for the flora and the fauna, respectively. So let's say they put it there, okay? What that denotes is nobody can acquire that, and anybody who acquires something from this column has to pay a little extra. So we put that there. It's a little bit of a catch-up mechanism. And the last thing is the saguaro goes to somebody here, whoever is the lowest on the elevation, which happens to be this player. I'm going to have the saguaro. And anytime somebody acquires a card that has this symbol right here, I'm going to get 1 gold. With that done, that's the planning phase. We go to the journey phase, in which we are going to be taking turns in turn order, placing our 3 markers and taking actions for those things. So we begin with this player over here. Their options are as follows. You can go to any of these tiles or any of these cards by placing in this area between them, and you'll be paying some turquoise to do that. 1, 2, 3, and 4 turquoise, respectively. This side is the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in this game, the top 3 rows of your player board really represent the same thing. It's turquoise, or it's currency, if you would. The top one being turquoise. The center one here is copper and then silver. But you'll see a number printed. So if I needed to spend, say, 6 turquoise for something, I can just spend this token on copper that's sitting right here on the 6. If it was sitting there, I could spend that as 6 of whatever, 6 turquoise. And so I could even combine them. I could spend this one, which is sitting on a 6, and this one, which is sitting on a 2, for a total of 8 turquoise. You cannot make change, though. If I only needed to spend 1 turquoise and I spend this one sitting here, which is on a 2, I do not then gain 1 turquoise to make up the difference. I lost the extra. And so that's the idea, which is why you might want to have various amounts so you can spend those that granular interim. All right, so those are options you can go to. And again, you cannot go to this one. You can go here, but you cannot take this. And if you choose anything from this column, you pay an extra life is what the cost is. So there's those spaces. You can go here. And if you go here, then you get these goodies. You'll get them again at the beginning of the next round, but you can take them now. You can go to one of these places and activate that. And then you will basically activate the arrow action again, where you can jump to that location, or you can move around your token based on where you put this, okay? And then you can also, let's see, you have to take a turn order action. You must. One of your 3 must be to take a new turn order action for the next round, and you will pay some requirement that you must take. Now, I will point out now that you'll see this is the only thing that requires that you take something and you pay something. And in this game, anytime you cannot pay something, you are going to take these Venom tokens, which are going to penalize you immediately and then also at the end of the game. You can also, lastly, then go here and take one of these cards as long as you have the requirements for them, which are in, those requirements are listed in 2 things. Things you must give up from your board, like backpacks and life, and requirements of terrain you've traversed, which is tracked right here on this board. And as you achieve these symbols, you will be moving up and getting bonuses, and then you can translate those things without cashing them in, so you can get to these cards out here. And so again, with this player, they perhaps want to continue working on their board. You'll see here there's some tile laying that they are achieving, so perhaps they'll do that. They are going to go to this spot right here. This spot has spaces for 2 workers right now, but if we were playing with 3 or 4, then a 3rd spot opens up. They'll go there. They can take either one of these tokens. They're going to acquire this one, and you'll see a solid line that tells you which side is the bottom. This cannot be freely rotated. It goes like this. They are going to pay 3 of that. And again, they could do 1, 2, 3. Like so, and then they'll play this somewhere on their board here, and so I'm going to play it right there. The things I'm covering up are things I'm going to be gaining, so they're gaining 1 turquoise and 1 on this track here, moving that up, gaining me 1 grit, 1 Arizona grit. The Arizona grit happens on this track, and it moves in reverse to the gold. And it's also every 2 steps. You'll see the symbols there. So this player has acquired none yet. This is their first. They will move from here to that spot. And then they're placing this tile right there. Boom, like so. They are done with that action. One last thing you do need to do is every time you acquire a tile, you move up on the elevation track. And so they're going to be moving to there. They will move up on any one of these tracks right now. Let's say they move there. And you can also pay some turquoise to move a little bit more. They'll do that. They'll pay 1 to move another one, and they'll pay 2 more to move another 1, like so. You want to be high up on that elevation for a bunch of bonuses and getting grit, getting various things that will benefit you throughout the game. So they've taken their action. We go back to this player. They will acquire a card or a tile, or perhaps they'll go here and trigger this, or maybe acquire one of these. I think they're in a pretty good position to do one of those. So let's see what we've got here. Not quite high enough on that one. They're not quite ready for any of these. They need to acquire some of those, these traversals here. So that's the idea. You are going to be taking those 3 actions back and forth. One of them has to go here. And then once you're done with that journey part of your phase, this middle part, then you go to this last part, the recovery, in which we are going to retrieve your markers. You are going to update this turn order track in the next chunk right here. Where you'll return the Saguaro and the Gilla monster. We refresh these cards and these cards, and we get ready for the next one from the top again, where you get the bonus and then bury this card. We do the arrow action and so on. So that is the idea. There's a few things I'm not mentioning. Some of these cards will give you a bonus tile, this tile right here, which you can place anywhere like so and fill in a 1-tile spot. There are eventual bonuses out here, which are going to get you the Lost Dutchman, a one-time worker that you can deploy to somewhere, and it's not even blocked. It can go to somewhere you've been or somebody else has been. And there's a few other things you can get. The Jackalope is a little bonus that you will unlock, and you can deploy that anywhere you want to. So there's quite a bit. Also, this deck of cards here will be progressing. We're right now using this brown deck, but eventually we'll switch it out for the blue deck, and then eventually for the last green deck, where the thresholds do get higher and higher, so you need to be keeping up with the game. So there you go. That is about 80% of what's going on in the game. Let's go ahead and go back up top.
Unfortunately, that might be one of the most positive things I have to say about the game, is how excited I was to play it. This was a rough one, and I'm going to try not to just completely dump on the game, but let's start with some positives here.
Yes.
I think that it is absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
I think Andrew Bosley is one of my favorite artists, but I think he is the perfect artist for this setting as well.
I agree. And the game has a really neat concept of cascading actions, which you see in a lot of roll and writes and that sort of game where they're done well. And this one does that well. That feeling of selecting something, and when I do that, I advance on this track, and ooh, look at that. I get a bump up on whatever from that, and ooh, when I do that, I get this.
Right. It does give it kind of that puzzly feel, because as players are going to actions and taking that spot, you can probably get what you want from somewhere else if you can puzzle it together.
Yeah.
I will say probably, though. Because
Sure.
that cascading, the cascading options can lead to some of the frustrations I have with the game. Mm-hmm. And one of the big ones is just forgetting something on your turn. You know, whether it is you took one of the tiles and you forgot to go up the elevation track.
Right.
Or in the middle of your turn, you get a bonus here, so you need to go over here to resolve that, which cascades something else. Okay, hold on, let me put my finger there so I remember to come back over there. Was my finger there because I took it, or because I needed to remind myself to? You know, it's really hard. Or if you do go through a turn and realize I can't do that, that wasn't a legal turn, that wasn't a legal placement, or that doesn't quite fit on my board right, something like that. It's really difficult to undo a turn.
Yeah, it's wrong. If it's very punishing or just impossible or difficult to go back and fix something, even if you just made that mistake of either taking something you shouldn't have, placing it where you shouldn't have or shouldn't have been able to, or you forgot a little something because of the cascading ideas. Mm-hmm. You know,
Right.
Often I take a tile, the next player goes, and I'm like, oh, wait, I forgot to go up on the elevation track. But that's not just go up one and that's it. That's easy to fix. It's go up one, I possibly get a bonus, I now have new information I shouldn't have had, and I can pay to go up more. Mm-hmm. And I maybe have resources I shouldn't have. It's like, it's just so...
Yeah.
This is a careful game. You have to be incredibly careful while you're playing this game. You know what I mean?
That's a good word for it. I feel like this is a walking on eggshells on your turn game.
Yeah,
You're
bit.
having to be procedural when there's not a procedure on your turn.
Right.
So you feel like you're walking on eggshells, making sure you get everything right as you go. Oh, wait, that's not as efficient because now I have too many turquoise. Should I change and do this action instead so that I don't, oh no, well hold on, now I have a 10-minute turn. You know, it just,
Sure.
The cascading and the connected actions definitely get in the way of the game and the flow of the game and the turn sequence.
Here's the thing. I think that's the least of my complaints.
I'm trying to start positive.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, but that is a negative point. We're making a negative point, but I really don't have that big of a problem with that.
Okay.
We're kind of going on and on about that, but it's really not that big of a problem. Like,
I had a big problem with it. Okay.
Yeah, it might happen a few times throughout the game, and you go like, well, okay, I made a mistake. You know what I mean? Or, oh, you did that illegally. It's like, okay, then I lose it. I get punished. That's fine. Like, it happens in other games, too. It's as far as, like, things that I found bothersome or problematic in this game, it's pretty low down the totem pole, in my opinion. I'm happy to start right at the top, though, with the rulebook. I think this is one of the worst rulebooks I've read in years. Yeah. It really is. It is a conversational document written not like a rulebook. And so there are rules in there that you won't know where to find them. There are rules that aren't in there. And the whole thing is chatty. It's like sitting around the porch and I'm going to tell you about this game, but I'm going to just kind of meander around. Like, they barely break down what a turn looks like.
Right.
Like, do this, then do this, then do this. There are cards in the game that reference phases that don't exist. They are not named that. I had to guess at what the recovery phase or whatever it's called. There's one card that says during this phase you get
resource gathering phase. I think it was.
It had a single word like refresh or something, and I'm like, yeah, none of the phases are called that. I don't know when that is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's when we update the cards on the table.
Right.
Or maybe when at the beginning of a round, or I have no idea. The rule book is just bad. It needs to be written technically.
Yeah.
It cannot be for a game this complicated. Like, come on down and sit around the campfire and I'll tell you a story about this game and kind of how it works. And I might remember something halfway through and be like, by the way, don't forget the Gilla monster. I'm like, no. Break it down. I need a logical rulebook so I can find things and so I can do all the things correctly.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make, is I think it makes it so difficult to reference later.
Yes.
So the first time you read through it, it does have this sense of like, oh, this is exciting. I am sitting down and someone's teaching me this game, and it feels very pleasant. But then at the end of reading the rule book, you sit to play and you're like, wait, I have no idea how to play.
Right.
You know, like at the end, you're like, you really enjoy the first read, and then after that, you're like, this is not the information presented in a usable way.
Right.
And then to reference that later, it's thrown in this one little sentence in somewhere, what to do in case of a tie. I don't know. Let me start at the very start of the rule book again.
And it's not there.
No idea where it is. Right.
We looked it up online, right? Like, it's not there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a tie for some, but not for others. So yeah, it's also missing information. It's just a really difficult rule book to actually teach you to play the game.
Yeah, that's one of my big three issues, I think. The other big issue I have is I think the game... Basically, every idea that they had while they were developing this game made it in this game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything they thought, oh, that would be interesting. That is very Arizona Trail. We should put that in. That's not great game design. I'm sorry. Not every interesting idea you have should make it into the final product, because then it's this unwieldy Frankenstein's monster thing where half the things happening don't have any connective tissue to anything else happening. And it just feels like you have a collection of interesting mechanisms, and they are interesting, but none of them flow in any way. I'm still looking at the reference sheet to know what things are next, because nothing has any connective tissue. At the top of the round, you get the things on the lower 48 card, little card. Okay, cool. Then you do the crossed arrows action. Okay, do that. Now the Gilla monster, I'm like, wait, what is happening? Why is all this disconnected stuff still in this game at this stage? I don't mind you testing all this stuff out.
Yeah.
But the Gilla monster somehow made it through the entirety of this playtesting and is still in the game. It feels like a module at best.
I think it feels one of two things. Either undeveloped. It's like somebody came, hey, here's my whole big idea, and nobody helped whittle it down.
Right.
Either that, or it feels like a whole bunch of modules that weren't meant to be played together. You know, it feels like, here's all these different modules. We recommend you choose one or two. But the game was like, no, we're going to use them all.
Yeah.
You know, and so it feels like one of those two things, like this is the beloved game that you've played so much that you're comfortable throwing all the modules in, but they shouldn't be thrown in for the general game player.
Right. This was developed in a bubble.
Yeah.
After years of playing, everything is comfortable, and then you give it to somebody else and their head explodes.
Right.
You know, and your rule book in your head makes all sense because you wrote it probably and you know how the game works. But you give it to somebody else and their head explodes. That's not, you gotta not work like that. This game needed outside development, outside readers looking at the rule book and going, I have no idea how to set up. Like, I have no idea what a turn looks like. Why is this rule way over here instead of over there? Mm-hmm. Why is it so conversational? You know, things like that.
Right. One of my big issues that I have with it is I feel like it's very split focus, and that is partly because I think of we'll say the module effect, that we're talking about here, the module effect. Because of that, it feels very split focus, and I know that in one of the plays, I really focused on I can't remember what they're called.
The goals.
The goal cards in the middle, the star goals or whatever. I focused on those, and about a third of the way through the game, I was like, this is not going to lead to anything.
Right.
So I had to completely shift gears, and I just remember feeling like if that's not a viable solution, strategy, if that's not a viable strategy, then why is it in there?
Right.
Why not be a module that I can add or leave or whatever? And so then it's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on just doing my board down here. And I did that in another one. I'm just going to try and fill in all the pieces. And that got in its own way. And I realized I'm not getting the grit I need in that point.
Right.
And so it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. So it forces you to do a little bit of everything, which makes you feel like you're doing nothing.
Right.
And that leads into my other big issue with this is while it feels like you're doing nothing because the scoring at the end of the game is one of what I consider kind of the negative scoring. You see your score here, and then it's like, lose points for this, lose points for this. Do you have this? No, because that's really difficult to get, so we probably don't have that. So then you get 1 point back.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, lose points for this also. Because you took Venom, because you didn't have the resources you need. And so when you get into that negative scoring, it just doesn't feel good. And at the end of the game, end, it should have felt fun. It should have felt like I had a good time, and I see what I did wrong, and oh man, I missed it. Hey, good game though, buddy. But no. To end with it after 2 hours, to end with a negative score, and so if I have -3 and somebody else has 12, and I started at 50, it's like, that doesn't feel good,
No.
and so
No.
it's just, the game leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
I mean, one of the examples in the rulebook, the only example of scoring in the rulebook has an example scoring for 3 players, and it's like the one player in that example has a -7 score, okay? At the end of the game, at the end of a 2-hour, pretty grueling kind of game, very demanding. Again, walking on eggshells kind of game. I'm sorry. If you think it's okay for any of your players to have a -7 score at the end of your 2-hour grueling game, you have a basic misunderstanding of what people find fun in games. That's called kicking down. That is not fun. I don't want to play a game where at the end I have a -7 score. I don't want to do it in a 30-minute game. I sure don't want to do it in this one. It just feels bad. It's going to leave you feeling like trash. Yeah. The scores should not be that punishing. I like, again, all of the ideas in this game separately. I just don't necessarily want them all in the same game. And I certainly think many of them need to be developed. Mm-hmm. The idea, everything, polyominoals, great. Cards for abilities that you spend the cubes off of and then they run out. Great idea. 2 trackers, and they run at each other, and then when they overlap, your score starts to go up. Great idea. They're all good. They all just don't need to be in the same game, and they need finessing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be kicked while I'm down all the time in this game, and that certainly feels that way.
Right.
My final issue with the game, I think, would be that the percentage of you playing game versus you updating and upkeeping things in this game is way off, okay? You are going to be looking at the reference sheet, updating things constantly, and then you put out, really, 2 workers. Because the third one, you have to go to turn order, which is a boring choice. It's like another lame, just like, oh, yeah, right, I have 1 left. I guess I have to go to turn order.
Right.
I was really hoping to do a 3rd thing this round, but I guess I won't until I get all the way up the elevation track and get another guy for the last round.
In which case I went through 2 weathers, which completely randomly hurt or benefited everyone but me.
Yeah, the weather cards are also so wackadoodle, man.
Yeah. All over.
So there's just too much upkeep. I really do think there is about maybe 15-20% of this game that you could cut right now.
Yeah.
Just straight up, boom, gone, okay? All the, what are they called? I wrote them down. The spirits of the forest, Gone.
Yeah.
I get it. You love this history. You love the mythos of the place. You love the trail. You like the world. And it's like a love letter to that. But if you're going to then turn around and sell it as a board game, you got to make it accessible. You got to make it digestible to people that maybe don't have that same passion for the place and maybe just kind of want to play a game and enjoy the setting, but they're not. This isn't, a deep dive for them.
Yeah.
There's a few things that could have just gone right out, and the game would be a little faster for it, a little simpler for it.
Yeah. With that, I think I'll jump into my final thoughts.
Go ahead.
Anything. Okay. I'm going to come down in a 4 for this game. And this is really just so very disappointing because I think that there is a good game here. I really think that there is so much potential in this, and it is just screaming for some development. It's screaming for a second edition. And if I saw a second edition with development on the shelf, it would be pretty close to an insta-buy. Because I like what you were saying. I like a lot of the things that are going on in here. I think that it just needs some combining. It needs some refining. It needs some clarifications and definitely some streamlining to bring the fun to this very mechanically jumbled and misdirected game that it ended up at. It needs some focus to it. You were talking about things that can be cut. Maybe it's also just things that can be combined. I mean, you have the whole deck of just the flora and the whole deck of the fauna. Maybe you mix those in and you just have one deck, and then you can still have the spirits, which are over there in a little bit, because then it's not a third deck or a third mechanism you're working with. Things like that. It just needs it needs some fresh eyes on it that are not. That don't want to see everything, that are okay to make some of those hard cuts and hard choices.
Somebody not emotionally tied to your baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
get it. I understand.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like the passion project where we said no to nothing. And for me, I would just want more focus out of it so you know what to do and for it not to feel grueling. I love hiking. I've been through some really miserable hikes. I've been 2 weeks on a trail with, bloody blisters on my feet. I don't want to physically go through that again, and that's what this kind of emotionally feels like. I shouldn't feel like I'm actually hiking and getting those blisters, and that's emotionally what I'm feeling in this game.
Right.
So for me, unfortunately, it's a 4. Hoping for a second edition one day.
This is the hardest kind of game to both play, to review, because, like you said, it makes me want to, crack this box open and start. I'm not a developer, I'm not a game designer, but it makes me want to start doing that. Because there's so much in here I want to salvage. I want to play this game. It tricks me as I look at the beautiful cover and I think about some of the neat tile placement. It tricks me into thinking, maybe I should try it again. And then I do, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. This game is infuriating.
It's miserable.
Oh wait, I need to look up a rule. How much should we do oh, that's right. This rulebook is infuriating.
Yeah.
It is so difficult. It's kind of gut-wrenching because, yes, a second edition, some streamlining, some more work to get it there so that it is a game more people can play and enjoy would be tremendous. But that's not what this is in front of us. I'm also coming down at a 4 on this one. It is just not there yet. This was not ready for the main event. There's a lot of good ideas in here, but the operating words there are lots and ideas. Yeah. There's too many. There's too much going on. Streamline, rework, get the game to be a little bit zippier, and don't worry about representing every single aspect you read about when you were looking up the Arizona Trail. It's okay for some things to not make it in. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. So unfortunately, like you said, it's a 4.
All right. So it sounds like it was a miss for both of us. Unfortunately, Trailblazer, the Arizona Trail. Let us know down in the comments, if you've had a chance to play it and what your thoughts as well. Yeah. But until next time, I'm Camilla.
I'm Zee Garcia.
And we will see you on the trail.
Go play John Muir Trail.
Yes, that's a good one.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.